Next in.
Welcome to Next In. As you can see, I have no co-host. I ate Shane, so I was just sick and tired of listening to him talk, so we booted him. No, I'm kidding. He's got a family wedding today, but I am joined. I'm really excited to be joined by Bridgette Arthur-Mensah. Um, Bridgette is the VP of her life. That's what we have decided. Her title. She has been VP of Engineering and corporate vice president at some major massive insurance company prior to that. She had a wild career, and I really appreciate you coming and joining us today. We'll kind of get right into it because, I can talk for hours, and as much as everyone loves listening to me talk, I think they came to listen to you. So, Bridgette, tell us a little bit about right now. It's kind of fun. We're a recruiting agency, so we help people find jobs. That's not why we're talking, but I don't think you necessarily need our help. But you have done
You
some
never know.
amazing. Never know. All right. So we have done some. You have done some amazing things. You've had a wild and awesome career that's kind of gone in some unique directions. I'll just kind of give the starting point: electrical engineer. Most recently, VP of engineering for a nice large company there in New York, and a lot of stuff in between. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Oh, wow. So I'm going to talk about a 21-year career. And
And you have
i-
15 seconds. I'm just kidding.
in a way that people will be interested. So I began my career in IBM. I actually interned in IBM and I got hired right back into it. And that was a great career start for me. Most of my long-term relationships, some of my mentors have been folks who have been with me from IBM, people who've recommended me for other roles are the ones I met at IBM. And I am an electrical engineer. I did my bachelor's in Rutgers, and whilst I was in IBM, I took advantage and did my master's in electrical engineering. People ask why again? Why didn't you do something different? I just seem to grasp engineering concepts a little bit easier than others, than in the medical field. Hence, I gravitated to that, and I like that secretary of things. I was a hardware engineer. I did that for 7 years, and I was looking to do more, get more senior leadership roles, and an opportunity opened up in the research division of IBM. And it was exciting because it was the first time they were setting up a resource management program. So I took that leap, moved into the research division, and worked with some of the brightest minds in IBM. These were scientists, PhDs, and their main job was to work on future technology that would come down 5 years from the moment I was from that day. And it wasn't just IBM. It was collaborating with competitors like Samsung, ST Microelectronics. It's interesting how competitors come together to do research and bring their strengths. And in my role, trying to manage the resources, making sure we had what we need for the programs, what we needed also for our manufacturing fab, and how to navigate intellectual property protection for IBM and for others. It was an interesting experience for me, different from looking at how ASIC should work and trying to break them and into that role. I did that for 2 years, and another opportunity came up because IBM was in a transition. They sold their fab. And I remember moving into the hospitality industry, and for 9 years, all I've known was IBM. I hadn't really interviewed for 9 years. And because interviewing within IBM for a new role is different than doing an outside
Oh,
interview,
sure,
right?
sure.
So I was nervous, and I think my youngest was probably a year, and an opportunity came up. And it's just like the stars were all aligned. It was yet again another opportunity in the hospitality industry to set up a resource management program. And at that point, I had to think about, do I take it? I had another competing offer with an academic company, and I took the hospitality one to get the feel of how technology drives business. And for me, it was a little bit of, okay, how do I now balance the work life situation? IBM was a 10-minute drive from home. Now I have to be in Stanford. One way it was an hour, 15 minutes. So needless to say, I actually had to strengthen my support network.
Well, why
I
didn't you should have
have,
just stayed at the hotel? I'll take a nice stay at a Ritz Carlton, something like that.
not when you have three boys.
I know. I got 5 kids, so I get it. I get it.
So my youngest was about maybe one. I can't even remember how old he was at that time, but he was not in proper school. So he still had to be taken care of by a family friend, an older lady. And I would be commuting back and forth. And yeah, and then it was, yeah, so yeah, around that time as well, we had some family issues going on. My brother got really sick. I remember it was like a big, so it was a moment of big transition for me. Well, I took that opportunity and it was great. I was able to make a difference. I understood. I learned the hospitality industry, the first industry besides semiconductor computing. That was how I was trained, and I had worked for 9 years. It was my opportunity to start learning in a different, using a different part of my brain again.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was happy to know that I got this. You know how to grasp concepts and adjust and work with different levels in the organization, from VPs to the CTO to the CFO, whoever needed to get something done. It was such a flat organization and welcoming that you could just reach out and then work to help solve problems, collaborative to solve problems. After that stint over there, I moved on to the life insurance industry, and that was also a unique opportunity to do strategic planning, resource management, bring about business agility. And New York Life, I would say, is almost like IBM. It's traditional, it's an
Sure, it's the
old company.
big behemoth. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
it was, yes. And question is, how do I make a difference and making it move into a modern era, right? For what they wanted to do. They
is that
wanted
why you transitioned to metadata? Was just looking for something more fresh, innovative. I don't know if those are the right words that you would describe it, but IBM, New York Life, amazing companies, but yeah, they're seen as, in some regards, some see them as the dinosaur, which is not a necessarily a bad thing. They're a behemoth. They're enormous. They've been around
Mhm,
since the Mayflower landed. But then there's the kind
yeah.
of the Facebooks of the world or whatever that are seen as new and innovative and
Mhm.
constantly changing, and they're working on the metaverse and everything else. Is that why you
That
transitioned out?
a little bit of that. And for me, I think what's always driven me is to do something new and different, and to keep reaching for my maximum potential. So I think a little bit of that, because I have been in traditional Fortune 500 companies, right?
Mhm.
Established. You come in, right? And with metadata, I've heard that it was really innovative, forward thinking, progressive company. And it was a good place to be. It was still founder led. It was a public company at the time, but the founders were very much involved in the company, and the founders are, very great. So I had the opportunity to go in and be part of the executive team there, and the engineering operations role was coined. I remember towards the end of my interview, and I was told that, the role that you were actually interviewing for has been filled, but we really want to have you because the hiring manager has some ideas. Let's figure out what we'll be doing here to bring about some, optimization, bringing about some changes. So I came in, and it was quite a ride. I would tell people I had to go to drug development in about a month. when I joined. A month into it, I had to learn that because I was thrown right into COVID trials, operation support. And then from then on, I did the bread and butter technology stuff like software development cycles. And then I dipped into contract negotiations, structuring our hosting agreements, and just in our monitoring system and tech operations, proposing that we have a much more predictive and intelligent system in place. I stretched myself and my brain in ways that you can only imagine. And I've never done life sciences before. So, it was a satisfying field as well because, I wake up thinking I'm actually helping a researcher somewhere get the data they need to help solve a rare disease. And for me, it was making a difference in the life of a patient. And, I liked it. So somewhere around, a couple of months ago, I made a decision that, I want to continue this career path of mine where I can go into industries and bring about transformative change elsewhere. So I parted ways amicably, still have very good friends in Metadata. And, it was bittersweet, but was something that I was looking to do and continue elsewhere.
So
And
so I'd be lying, so next level, the company we run, not Next
mhm,
In. That's just a fun podcast thing we're doing. What we are, we're recruiters, and we are a recruiting agency that partners with everything from heavily funded Series A to publicly traded companies, anything in technology, software, gaming, etc. So we're talking right now, our team is talking to dozens of candidates every single day for AI programmer roles, director of IT roles, VP of engineering roles, CTO roles, everything from mid level to senior level. Normally, when we do this, we talk to people who are vice president of product or vice president of engineering, which you've done. But if transparently, it's always been people who are currently in a role, and we talk about like what they're looking to hire and
mhm,
etc. So it's kind of fun that we get to talk to someone who, in a lot of ways, you're a candidate.
yeah.
You're going through the candidate experience. You probably, we don't need to get into who you've interviewed with or what, but I'm curious, like as you go through it, late stages of your career, you're not like just getting out of college. So
Mhm,
you've got a strong resume and a really strong background, everything from corporate vice president, VP of engineering, and so on and so forth. What's it like for you? Do you feel those nerves again, or do you feel like, hey, I'm in the driver's seat? Are you trying to find the perfect job? Or are you just sort of like, man, I hope someone calls me? What's it like to be in that shoes? Because you haven't been there for a couple of years and you've only been there really two or three times in your career outside of internal promotions and
mhm.
so on.
What it's like to be in this seat right now, a couple of words I would say is it's been liberating in the sense that I'm older now. My children are much, not much older, but they are older. They don't need me around the clock like they used to. I have had varied experiences over the last, 2 decades to know exactly what culture I thrive in, where my strengths are, and where really purpose wise in life, right? What I want to be doing. So it's no longer the rush um to get into a new role and a new role and work, but it's more of that thoughtful approach as to where do you think that you really want to be your purpose, and what is the right place to do that and thrive. And that could change in the next 5 years, but for now,
Sure.
where is it? And during this journey, I have met interesting people. I have done cold calls. I think people think I'm crazy sometimes. That's it,
No,
but
we
I
that's
have
what we
done.
live on. That's what we do all day, every day.
And I thought I couldn't do sales. Sales was always intimidating to me. Then after a while, I was like, you know what? After all that you've done, you're not bad for a salesperson. But I have done cold calls to, whichever level, from the C level to my peers and below, to find information about companies. Because one thing I've realized is you would not know much about a company's culture until you are sometimes in it.
Yeah.
Talking to someone would help you better understand the dynamics of the company and
Yeah.
where you're heading. And you can use that information to just inform the decision that you want to make. So it's been very helpful where, I have been very fortunate to be part of like the chief network where I have resources available, and advice on just navigating things and just coaching advice as well. And I've been part of the Healthcare Business Women Association, where you have a network of people who like-minded folks but in different professions who you can bounce off ideas too, right? Today I had like 2 calls with folks in the HBA just to understand how is it like in big pharma. Never been in big pharma before. Is there really a value for my technology skills there, right? So it's been so one liberating. It's been rediscovering. I thought I had my resume all packed down until yesterday. I'm with my coach and we're looking at it, and she says, "Huh, I don't think you would get into the point that you really want to with this. It's a bit too broad." And so we thinking how to present where I want to go to together with my strengths in that resume. I had to like redo it.
Yeah.
But there's been a rediscovery and learning to trust the process and not being too on the nerves. And because I'm a planner, I
Yeah.
like to like plan things out and just execute. And knowing that this could go in many directions. I
Yeah.
could end up in a startup. I could end up in a much more in between or in a much more mature company. So
Yeah,
just
and that's that listening to you say it, it's like it feels like it's like a promotional material for what we do, and I don't mean to tout, us but this is where I feel like the recruiting agency is really different than just going and interviewing for jobs. When we talk to a candidate, although we've identified them, we will do the cold call and reach out to them, and oftentimes they're passive. Essentially everything you talk about is what we try to figure out. We don't just go, hey, have you worked in C++? Hey, have you used Unreal Engine before? If so, cool, let's send you to meet with this customer. We're looking at, like you mentioned, what kind of culture do you want? What are your real strengths? I mean, I can see what your resume says, but like, what is truly your
Mhm.
strengths? What do you want? And what we spend a lot of time talking about as a team is telling people, no, this is a bad fit. I don't want to send you over there. Hey, this role isn't what you're looking for. You want, based on a lot of your career and a lot of your desires, you want companies that are going to be publicly traded or bigger, because that's what you are most familiar with. That's what you enjoy the most. You feel most comfortable there and you thrive the most. Some people, hey, the startup space, every day is something different. The CTO might be cleaning the bathrooms tomorrow, but they love that. And some
Yeah.
people love that lack of
Hmm.
organization and stability. They thrive under pressure and every day ever changing. Maybe in your case, you're like, I don't need that. What I need direct path and execute. And that's the type of culture I want, which tends to come with bigger, more established firms. Who knows? But that's what we
Hmm.
try to identify when we work with someone. It's interesting you mentioned the resume portion too, because we see like 1,000 resumes a day, and you'd be amazed people who are VPs of engineering, and I look at their resumes and I'm shocked. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
incredible. This
Yeah. And
is
after a month of looking, I put it aside and I took a look at it again. I was like, yeah, this is kind of, I can see how people could be confused. And really, you have to position your resume as to what you really want, and someone should be able to grasp it in less
Mhm.
than a minute. So it's been an interesting journey. And don't you worry, when I do land a job, I will be working with Next Level to start,
Nice.
because I will
Love
be
that.
back in technology. Yeah.
I love that. So, what is it that got you going in the technology? Like, where did you get this? Like, again, not saying healthcare doesn't have technology. Obviously, there's healthcare tech, but
Mm-hmm.
like, there were a lot of ways. You mentioned I could have done medicine. I could have. What is
Mm-hmm.
it that sparked you with this idea that I want to be on the forefront of innovation rather than you could have gotten into, you said you have an engineering brain, which means you have a math and science brain. You could have been an architect. You could
Mm-hmm.
have done something in the construction space. There's a lot of different paths people who have strong math, science, analytical thinking can go. You were driven towards technology at a time when technology maybe wasn't, nowadays technology feels like that's what we do as a culture. But 20 years ago, it was still a little bit the budding early stages. What drove you towards technology?
I think in the beginning, and I say beginning, if I go all the way back to college days, in the beginning, and that was engineering, right? So in the beginning, it was, I'm good at this. Let's stick with that. That's how you get in your door into your next job after you get done with school. So I did that. And beyond that, I would probably say it's the consumer products. Right? I remember getting this phone. Bluetooth had just, because we learned about Bluetooth when I was in college and all the great
Yeah.
things it would do, right? And I just had this new phone that had Bluetooth, and I remember my late brother, he was one influence as well because he was in technology. He did engineering and went into technology, and we were close, and just show him all the cool gadgets, like texting him, and back and then the mobile phones had just come out, just showing him all the cool features of having a Bluetooth phone. And so I think it was mainly the consumer products, and that's one thing that I have come to believe, that if you use technology to give your users a delightful experience, if you use it to solve a problem, you are just bound to just grow, and
Hmm.
and just it just you'll capture the attention. And that is what I think the iPhone Apple did in a good way with the iPhone. Just use it in a way because that's what people are more familiar with. They touch it and see it. IBM did use technology, but it was more business. It wasn't front and center. We are
Correct.
business machines, right? And so I think moving into the other world of, hospitality, where we introduced like the keyless entry, right? Back then, how do you get into your hotel room without a key? You attach it,
Yep.
then all of that robotic ideas in there, just knowing more about your guest so that you give them a better guest experience, because now you know a little bit more about the data and leveraging the data to give them a personalized experience when they get to their hotel room. So things of that nature was like, it's really nice, right? And so that was probably one of the reasons why I moved into technology, and um, and probably stayed because of what it could solve, the problems that it could solve. I did not go into medicine because I know very well that I'm not good with biology words and just those. And I know for sure I wouldn't be do well in construction because you can't trust me to build anything out of like concrete and wood. There's a certain skill set that I don't think I was born with. So
All right.
no,
Well,
no,
so
no
consumer,
need
and
for it.
I don't think you're crazy. I think the consumer electronics space does get a lot of people to recognize it
Mm-hmm.
can solve my small personal problems. And so I can only imagine what it can do on the business level, on the B2B space, and
Yeah.
whether it's invoicing customers, things like that. That most people don't think about. I have to, you have to, but your average teenager or young adult doesn't care about an invoicing program or Intuit or things like
Mhm.
that. But they do think about their iPhone and how easily they can connect with a friend, or they can go to an app to listen to music or what, all those different things that on a consumer level is now an everyday part of our lives. That you were mentioning, you in college, I got my first cell phone in college. I remember getting my first Jabra Bluetooth
Yep.
earpiece, and thought it was the coolest thing in the world that my phone could stay in my pocket and I could still talk to people. Now my kids laugh at me when I mention that kind of stuff, but they don't realize how special that was for
Yeah.
you and I. We're both like 28 years old and when that first came
Oh,
out.
I love
So
that. Yep.
so again, if you can give, this is, I like the
Mhm.
advice time. If you could give a piece of advice for people maybe before you, maybe they're 10 years, 12 years before you in their career, and they've been at their own version of IBM and they're ready to make that first significant transition into the mid-level, maybe senior level type roles like you did, and they're just now starting to think outside of this. My first job has been a great one. I've learned a bunch. Now I'm ready to make a move. What advice would you give to them as they prepare for that?
To move into a different industry and at a different level? Is that what you're asking? Moving
Yeah,
from,
it doesn't have to be different industry, but they're about to leave their IBM, their first,
oh, the first
place where,
home.
yeah, their first real home, and sometimes that can be scary. They've maybe gotten frustrated, or they feel like they've hit the ceiling at that place. They're ready to move on. What advice would you give to them as they start to look?
I would say just they should, first of all, I'm sure they'll reflect on it, right? You reflect on it and understand that you would have to build new relationships.
Hmm.
And I've had, and that is, some of the, I shouldn't say downside, but that's the con when you leave a place where you are established and you know who to call. I can call Taylor and he'll connect me with this and give me this other information.
Yep.
You don't have any, relationship, so you would have to build that and get it, get to accept that you'd have to come out of your shell and try and be more of an extrovert in some cases and build those new relationships
Yeah,
because you would
you
need
might
to.
need to say, "Hey, Bridget, you want to go grab lunch? I know we've never met. I'm going to Chipotle. You want to come? I just get to know you." That can be awkward for someone who's spent 6 years at the same place and they just go to lunch with the same four people pretty much every single day. And those relationships, though, are important.
Yeah. So first of all, it's going to be something that has to happen. So you have to just think about how you would approach it, right? Get yourself comfortable with that. Maybe you can start having, just join in some local chapters where you meet other people, and then that sort of gets your feet wet into knowing people who you don't necessarily work with. Don't, having that sort of relationship building aspect there. And the second I would say is, um, always never forget your strengths, right? And that is something that I've always kept with me whenever I joined a different company, because they are the ones who would, you would sometimes, you yourself will feel intimidated that, wow, this person has 10 years farmer. How am I going to thrive in farmer? Right? That's me. Or that so has, 10 years in hospital. They know the ins and out of revenue generation and how to, book stays. And I'm just coming in. What you don't know shouldn't be your focus. What you bring to the table is should be your focus. That is your strength. And what you don't know, you see that as the opportunity to even get you to the next level. So do not hide or diminish the strengths that you have that brought you to where you are right now, and find ways where you can transfer it to the next role.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, so that is the second thing. And I think the last thing I would say is just be prepared to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Yes, and uncomfortable and just the execution of the work that you do, uncomfortable in the workplace, and understand that there might be some adjustments as well at home, right? And if and I'm not sure about your work life, situation there, but there will be some uncomfortableness, but address it in a way that it's balanced for you, and in a way that it's in a positive, and
Yeah,
you are getting a positive experience out of it. I think
yeah.
that's a,
I don't
yeah.
know if you would say the same. You have 3 kids. I have 5, but we only had 4 births because we had twins at the end.
Okay.
And I looked at each and every one, no matter the first one, the second one, the third one, and then the fourth and fifth. Each time we did it, we went through the same, it was about a 3 month uncomfortable period. Some people talk about what was the hardest. Was it your first? Some people say it's the third. Some people would say it's twins. I don't know that there was one that was harder than the other. They were all difficult in the transition. Like you said, become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Each of them required about a 3 month of, like, trying to figure out the new sleep schedule with a baby and a 2 year old, or twins and 3 boys. And, you're just, everyone has its own unique challenge that came with it. I don't know if you felt the same, of like The first one, sure, I got no sleep. I wasn't ready for it. But after about 3 months, not that you're an expert, but you settle into a groove to some extent. You start to
Yeah,
figure out a little bit. Feel like a little bit that's the new job. It's like it is. It takes 3 months to get to know your way around. Just even know where the stinking bathroom is and who
yeah,
who
yeah.
who goes to lunch and what time to go to lunch and
Mm-hmm.
what time can I get home and how long is the commute and if I get home at that time am I going to be able to have dinner on time with my husband, wife, spouse, friend, whatever. And
Yeah.
it takes about 3 months to get settled in. It just does. No
Mm-hmm.
matter what it is, it's going to take some time. It's a fun transition period though.
It takes time, and you're spot on that. It takes time, and you should give yourself that time, and regardless of what role I'm taking, right,
Hmm.
from mid to senior, as one of my mentors in IBM gave me this book. It's about what to do in your first 90 days of a job, and I've had it since. That 100-day plans are not just for executives, for yourself, right?
Hmm.
Have that 90-day, and I don't have the book with me right now. I'll find it and send it to you in an email.
Yeah.
But have a plan for your first 90 days, right? Be it the discovery portion, what you want to do, right? And what you want to understand about the role, and and then in for the near term and for the future. Have that 90-day plan for yourself. And yeah, it takes 3 months. I would often say, so I've been advised to call them angels. So I'm not going to say any words, but they're three boys, same character. They each give you the most testosterone, the most hard work. But to your point, having them the first 3 months were different. My oldest was just the nice, quiet one, wouldn't cry much. I had to go back to work back in the day, 6 weeks after I had him.
Yep.
And it was actually 6 weeks because I also added some vacation days. It was 6 weeks after I had him, I had to go back to work. So he really was very compliant. He helped me out, and I had my mom with me, so he wasn't too bad. He was home for a while, so I didn't have to take him to daycare. My second, he was nice. No, he wouldn't cry much. Then he changed just when I had to go back to work.
No longer an angel.
The child will not stop crying, Lord, and that yeah. He
Hmm.
was one who would cry when he's in the car seat, cry for no reason. I think he didn't like to be restrained. So as long as he is just running around, he's fine. The moment he has to be in some confined space, his only way was to just cry.
Wow,
And
he's your creative thinker.
yeah, you can call it that way. But
I
he,
don't know.
he yeah,
You didn't see the bright side, I guess.
he was like, wow, if you had been the first child, I probably would have had just one child. But and then years later I had Ebo, and Ebo is a cross between the two, I think. I don't know, where I think he looks at them and he draws inspiration to either do worse or do least.
Yeah,
But
dude.
it's yeah, but it was, each of them are different in their ways, but they are consistent in the headaches that they give me and the
Yeah.
distraction that goes on in the house. But it's
Oh,
I
I
would.
feel that.
Do you
All
have
right,
all
so
boys or boys and
I
girls?
have three boys and then twin girls. So yeah, I know. God help me with the girls. I'm not sure I'm prepared to raise girls once they hit, middle school, high school age. They're first graders right now, so they're
Oh,
challenging, but they're not there yet. I have two middle school boys in elementary, and then the two girls. So
oh, that's nice.
yep. So keeps me plenty busy, and definitely gives me a sense of humor because I have five devils. You have three angels. I have five devils. So no, I love my kids, but
Yeah.
yes, they all present amazing challenges. I do think, to some extent you can use them in analogies to, like I just said, with new job is like
Mm-hmm.
having a child and all the turmoil that comes from it and learning how to adjust and be adaptive. And I love that 90-day kind of with a new position, new job, have 90 days set out. I actually just reposted on LinkedIn. I don't know. I saw it from someone else, posted someone else. It was like the CEO of, I don't know, Citibank or something like that, wrote a list of like 15 things for new grads to think about.
Mm.
And a lot of them, as I read them, I'm like, this isn't just for new grads. This could be a good refresher for people who are just
Everyone.
starting new jobs. It was, hey, if your company allows you to be in office, go in office 5 days a week, especially when you start, get to know people, get to know personalities, figure it out. And then it was work hard because you can never replace hard work. And it was, some basic stuff that probably doesn't get the publicity in the media that you want it to.
I'll go
That
and check it out. I'll check it out.
these are some really, really good, just like very basic level stuff that you don't get taught in college. You get taught actual electrical engineering courses, finance courses. They don't necessarily teach you how to crush it in your first job. And these are some really good things. I love that. Create a 90-day plan of what you want to achieve at that job, not just from a, hey, I need to get X project done, but maybe it's in the first 90 days, I want to go to lunch with 6 different people. I want to make sure that I, find someone to mentor me beyond those 90 days. Cause a
Mhm.
lot of the people we talk to are normally senior level and up. And almost everyone mentions mentors they've had in their lives. I can speak to Sean Miller and others. You're speaking to some people at IBM that were mentors that helped you. Everyone's got them, and I think finding some really awesome mentors is very valuable in people's career path, and that could be part of your 90 days of like, find someone that I can be a, either I can mentor or be a mentor to me in those 90 days could be pretty impactful. So I love it. Well, hey, I know we're butting up a little bit against some time constraints here. Wanted to ask you one real quick question. So you live in New York, right?
Um, Let me qualify
Okay.
upstate New York.
So you
I'm
live
not
upstate New York.
York, yes.
So if and I knew that you did not live in the city. So if you're in upstate New York, what is one thing you are looking forward to doing in the summer now that eventually you will stop having snow? So what is one thing you look
Uh,
forward to in the summer there?
just sitting out on the deck if I can get rid of the insects, right? I got this buzz up which is supposed to zap the insects, and I don't think it zaps them.
No.
But I'm looking forward to, and it's already nice here today. We are in the high 60s. So just sitting out on the deck and just soaking up some sun.
Well,
Looking
we're in
forward
the
to
high
that.
80s here in Nashville. We definitely
Wow.
have bugs and we have plenty of things to bug zap and get rid of them. And I promise you, they do nothing. It, it is a whole industry. The whole
Yeah.
the whole bug deterrent industry is a bunch of snake oil. None of it works because we've got it all, and they're battery
Hmm.
operated, they're gas fueled, and I feel like it attracts more of them. I don't know. It doesn't
Hmm.
seem to get rid of them. I'm ready to get a pet bat that just flies around and eats them all because they're everywhere. So, last question.
Hmm.
What is your favorite movie? We ask everyone that. What is your favorite movie?
Oh gosh, it's The Eye in the Sky.
That's one I haven't even heard of.
Yeah, it's a movie that I'm not a movie person, right? And I it's one movie that I like it because I have friends of the family who have been in the army, and you never really grasp the level of sacrifice that they make and the decisions that they have to do, and just in time to either protect, to protect a nation or to protect some individuals. And Eye in the Sky is one such movie, and just struggling to make a decision based on national security and also trying to protect the area that you're going to,
Hmm.
hit. It's an interesting movie, and it's about courageous leadership.
I have to check that out.
And
Actually, just 2 days ago, we brought on a new. We have some military folks or former military folks
Mhm.
that work here. One former military, and just 2 days ago, we onboarded a former Marine. Actually, he will end his duty, I think, tomorrow,
Okay.
and a National Guard, Air Force National Guard. So we have Army, Air Force, and Marines all
Yeah.
represented in our
It is a
office.
job that I don't have the hat to, and I really appreciate that immense sacrifice that they do.
100%. Me too. I always say thank you for your service because I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
So awesome. Well, this was excellent. Bridgette, I totally appreciate you joining me. It was way more fun without Shane, so I'm glad he couldn't make it. So just kidding, Shane, if you're watching. But I really do appreciate you stopping by. wish you the absolute best of luck. I don't think you need a whole heck of a lot of luck with your resume, but in your, VP of your personal self and building your resume, and if you need any help or assistance, you are an easily marketable person for us. So just a fantastic career. Thank you so much for the advice. I hope a lot of people who are a little bit earlier stage in their career take it, heed it, build your 90-day plan, know your strengths, which I love that. We talk a lot about that here in the office too. So know your strengths and really utilize those. So this was awesome, Bridgette. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Next In.